What's going on, guys? Julien here, back with another video. For today's video, we're going to be looking at a tier list for all the decks post Doom of Dimensions. It's a pretty important set, going to be live for all the incoming YCSs, YCS Lille, YCS Anaheim, even YCS Lima. Also, this tier list will be post Banlist. Before we get into the video, I want to let you guys know also that the masterclass is live and that I'm going to be back in the US tomorrow. So I'll actually have like a full setup. I won't just be recording on my MacBook Air. I'm going to share one last day with my girlfriend here, Sarah Lynn.
Hi.
YouTube, Sarah Lynn. All right, so let's get into the video. So first here I have Christian K9. Out of all the decks that got hit, I think this deck got hit like the least, to be honest. Inclusion to 1 is a little annoying. Really, it matters for like consistency, obviously, and also for your deck being able to like have inclusion on the field and in the graveyard at the same time if you ever want that to happen. But you can fix the consistency in this deck in a lot of ways, like Noroi coming out. Like Noroi can easily be your normal summon. There's multiple ways for you to actually like special summon Scrap Recycler with like the gadget Link 2 and all that stuff. So I actually think this deck is still pretty good. I'm gonna put it in low-key kind of nice, just the second tier, and seeing on how the rest of the tier list is gonna go, we might move it up or down. Next I have Dracoel. Dracoel is a deck that I'm a big fan of, and that honestly I think that like its worst matchup is Vanquish K9. So I think it gets better, right? With Vanquish K9 getting worse, it also obviously didn't get hit in the ban list. It gets like two extra cards, which are kind of mid, but can be pretty good to the deck strategy. So I'm also gonna put this deck in Loki kind of nice. I don't think this deck is like one of the best decks, just because it's like turn 1, like you go first, right? You don't actually establish that much, and if in order for you to do that, you have to play some like bricky cards. Like I don't really like playing those level 8 dragons. It can be pretty decent, just still needs to be explored more, but I don't think this deck is like one of the best decks. Next we have Pure K9. I think Pure K9, honestly, I'm gonna put it down here, not a great pick. I've seen a lot of people test it. I've tested it a little bit myself. I just don't like not having a supplementary engine with that deck, because that deck feels really weak to board breakers. Like when you like one Book of Eclipse, it's over for you. You have all your monsters face down, and like what can you do? It doesn't set up any hard negates for those kind of disruptions. So I don't love it as a deck. I think that like in a format where to me it seems like board breakers are gonna be prevalent, right? I don't think this deck can be like one of the best decks. I think that if you want to excel in this format, you can easily play board breakers. Every deck on this list can high key play through hand traps crazy, right? You need to draw like 3 hand traps to stop them. And for you to draw 3 hand traps consistently, like that's not gonna happen. Even if you play like 20, like you need to be playing at least 20 hand traps for that to happen. And even then, it's not like that consistently. There'll be a lot of games where you don't open 3 hand traps, and then your opponents will make like really strong half boards. And so I think that like to be able to just play around not drawing that many non-engines, you just play board breakers, and then one board breaker can cook your opponent's entire board. And if you have 2, then they're absolutely like owned, right? Whereas now you don't need 3 board breakers versus where you needed 3 hand traps. So I think that like a format where board breakers are gonna be prevalent, Pure K9 just like doesn't do enough. Like it's a really cool concept. Like yeah, you get to look at the hand, but like you get to look at their board breakers and be like, how do I beat this? It's not like you can actually remove the board breaker from their hand until like you establish the werewolf, which they'll use the board breakers before you get the werewolf on the field. So I think yeah, it's just not a great pick overall. Next we have Light Twins. I actually think that Light Twins is a deck that like it's kind of always been in the same spot, right? It's always been like okay. It's never been super awesome. It's never been super bad. I think the fact that the Fiendsmith engine got Lacrima back makes this deck better, right? It actually just got a buff from the ban list. We lost Moon for the Fiendsmith engine, but this deck doesn't care because this deck sets up Light Fiends like on its own, right? So you can actually bridge from your Life Twin engine to your Fiendsmith engine super easily, and you don't need Moon to do that. So therefore, the ban list overall was a plus for this deck. And meanwhile, all the other decks in the format got hit, like this deck is still fine. The only thing about this deck that I will say is that it loses to Fua super hard. So that actually, I'm gonna move it after I just put it in looking kind of nice. I'm moving that to decent. And as we go through the tier list, like I might move decks around, right? We're just getting a feel for everywhere in this decks, ranking them compared to each other, and then we'll see what ends up coming out on top. Next, we have Lunalite. I'm a huge fan of Lunalite. I think that low-key, like this deck got second at Worlds, and the deck that got first, like got hit. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? This deck, when you play board breakers, is kind of insane. Like, I'm not, like, guys, Lunalite, you set up a Liger Dancer, people got to start playing outs, right? And this deck is kind of in flux with how the format is. If everyone's playing an out to Liger, okay, it becomes a little more tough. This deck becomes not as good. But if people don't have this deck like high on their radar, and aren't willing to play out to towers, then this deck can just like kind of sneak by and do a lot. It plays through hand traps pretty well. It also like plays insane cards like heavy poly. Heavy poly is just like FTK. You just set up the Liger if you're against a deck that like cannot deal with the Raigeki, like against Yummy. Then you just set up like a crazy disruption race, just Raigeki the whole board away, and now what do? You can't out discard anyways. The other thing too is that you don't even need to make Liger Dancer. You can make Leo Dancer on your opponent's turn, and against Yummy, for example, they can't out this. So I think that this deck is actually really strong. And if it does see like if people see it coming, it's like gets moved down to kind of nice. But I still don't think that people are like really building their decks to beat this deck. So for now, I'm gonna put it in the best decks. Oh God, the next one, guys. I don't. It hurts me so much. It hurts me. Malice. I don't want to rank it low, guys. You guys know how much I love Malice. But Dormouse to 1, no Splash Mage. That you just lost 4 1-card combos. And this deck like does not play a lot of engine. So having to draw like 2 engine cards a lot of the time like becomes a lot tougher. Like no Splash Mage like makes the underground combo like super bad. Like you have to go like underground, Dormouse, Rabbit sent MTP, banish a name, add cat, normal cat, and then lizard. Like that loses to every hand trap in the game. Whereas before, your underground combo didn't lose to Ash or Nib. Now it loses to both. So I think this deck got a lot weaker. I'm not gonna say keep it in the binder because it's still Malice. Like it still has that explosiveness. I'm gonna put it not a great pick. You're still gonna make crazy end boards with this deck, right? You can play like supplementary engines like Hornet Drones. You can play Allure of Darkness and really just like boost your consistency. But at the end of the day, like they are just like much better decks now that I think are gonna be better than Malice for sure. Next we have Mitsurugi. Pure Mitsurugi. I think Pure Mitsurugi is also going to be one of the best decks. I want to say also, just so you guys know, like, this is a format where there's not going to be, like, one definitive best deck. There are just going to be decks that are better positioned than the others. But then if people start respecting the best decks, like, that I'm putting here, for example, they definitely will not be the best decks, just like I said with Lunalite, right? If people start main decking Droll, Pure Mitsu becomes a lot worse, right? But at the same time, then if people start main decking Droll, then Yummy becomes like really good because Yummy doesn't care at all about Droll, right? Like you can actually play around Droll in Yummy, but most people know that. But anyways, Mitsurugi, Pure Mitsurugi is really strong because of like Yummy being like the main deck that didn't get hit as hard, right? And is getting new waves of support. Like you guys will see a theme here. The 2 decks that I have in best decks are decks that have in engine like Raigekis, which are really really good against Yummy. And like that's why I think like those decks are well positioned. They're well positioned against Yummy. They're also like pretty good into Crystron, for example, as well as Dracoel. Like Dracoel cannot out this like very easily. Like there are cards you can play, but it's not easy. Dracoel has issue against Mitsurugi because the board like doesn't exist on the board, right? It kind of moves around. Your monsters get added to the hand, tributed, summoned back. A lot of disruptions that way. Murakumo making you discard fusion materials, like it's really annoying, right? So they're well positioned into like the other good decks, which is why I think they're like at the top of the tier right now. But yeah, anyways, Mitsurugi is a really strong deck, has a lot of 1-card combos, and the 2-card combos give you like some crazy end boards. Also, these are both decks that can play Babushka, and I think that Babushka is really good into the highly positioned deck except for Dracoel. But again, the other parts of the engine are good against Dracoel, so it balances out. Next, we have the MST deck. I'm not gonna lie, I think that the MST deck is kind of buns. Like, here's the thing. First of all, you have to play MST in your deck, right? Which, like, come on, guys, you gotta play MST. Like, come on. Second of all, this deck like, can be kind of turbo going first because of the extenders. Like, if your opponent controls no spells and traps, right, you can just like turbo out monsters. But first of all, that's like its main pro. If you're playing against Dracoel, they can actually just set spells and traps on your turn, and now you can no longer like turbo extend with your deck. That's 1. 2, going second, your opponent's always gonna have spells and traps, right? It's gonna be very rare for them to not set a singular card, and so then your monsters are not gonna be able to special summon out themselves. So you need to for sure at least play this deck like in combo with like another deck or another engine, sorry, and then it just becomes a question of what. But like as a pure version, I don't think you play this. It is just not that good. Next is Orcus. I'm gonna put Orcus in decent. I think Orcus and Life Twins kind of like do the same thing. They are both like summon a special summon a bunch like some in-engine boss monsters, as well as having access to like they're just link climbing decks, right? Generally, however, they both like lose really hard to Fuelos in my opinion. They both don't have great half boards into Fuelos, and when I look at all these decks, except for maybe Dracoel, they all have like really strong end boards, right? And Dracoel can also do that if you play some sub engine with it. Okay, so they can all set up crazy end boards. If you full combo in all these decks, you most likely win, right? So then the questions about like these full combo things is first, can you beat breakers well? Well, look at what I have at the top two decks. I have Lunalite, which destroys breakers, right? Unless you play specific breakers, but then you have to accept that you're like putting them in really only for Lunalite. And you have Mitsurugi, which is also really strong against breakers because A, post side you can put in the trap, which is defeats breakers. B, like your board is very flexible, like tributing your monsters. Your monsters leaving the board by your opponent's card effects doesn't matter because then you can just bring them back, still Regeki, that kind of stuff. You can even make the spell negate XYZ monster on like they're all level 8s, right? You can figure out what to do with that. And then the other thing is like, what are your half boards? Like, how do you play into Moltramis, right? So Mitsurugi sets up like just plays through the Moltrami, gives your opponent one draw per Moltrami, maybe two, right? Same goes with a deck like Dracoel. Dracoel can make a very decent half board through a Moltrami. The decks that are bad into playing into Moltramis are the decks that I have indecent and still set up like good boards when they don't get Moltramied are these two, right? They can also play around breakers like pretty well because their disruptions are in different places. Like for example, with you'd have Black Karma in the graveyard, you'd have you'd have a bow coming back in the end phase if you can just chain it to a breaker. This deck would also be really good into Eclipse, right? If people think that Eclipse is the best board breaker, the link decks are also really good into Eclipse. But if you get Moltrami, like it's over for you, guys. Like, come on, this deck and Orcus is also good into breakers, by the way, just because all your disruptions are in the graveyard. But then if you lose your your field spell, like you're kind of cooked. But you set up a continuous, a counter trap, and counter traps good into breakers, right? So there's that, but then there's like the ability to beat Moltramis, which is what you need to do, right? You need to be able to beat Moltramis because Moltramis are the thing that are gonna consistently give your opponent an edge when they go second. So these decks not great into Moltramis. If they resolve against you, like you might just be cooked. Next we have Ryzeal. I would say just keep Ryzeal in the binder. I don't care what you pair Ryzeal with. Like it was already not great before. I think that there are better cards to play than Ryzeal cards. Okay, that's maybe not fair. Just because Ryzeal is still like still Ryzeal. So we'll put it up here. We'll put it at not a great pick, guys. It's got hit like a million times. The engine like is just not complete anymore. What are you doing? What are you gonna do with 1x? Right? Like, what are you gonna do with 1x, 2 sword, 2 ice, like 1 detonator? If any part of your engine gets like banished, like you're not getting it back unless you want to play like plug-in, so you have to play an extra brick in your deck. And then if it gets banished face down, you're never getting it back. If you lose your cross, your engine runs out in like 1 turn. I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to play Ryzeal. I think there's just better options for decks that do similar things like Mitsurugi, and I wouldn't play Mitsurugi Ryzeal. Like you just lost imps, right? So you can't even bridge the engines in both directions anymore. You can only bridge them in one direction. So actually, I'm keeping Ryzeal in the binder, guys. Keep it in the binder. Sky Striker. Sky Striker is an interesting deck. I've never been a big fan, but it did get like a support actually with like the MST quick play spell. The one that says draw 2 cards. You can now just this card this has like a built-in Allure of Darkness. Draw 2 cards and then I think it's discard a quick play spell or discard a quick play spell and then draw 2 cards. Puts more spells in the grave for engage. Like that is pretty good. So I think Sky Striker Loki could be a sleeper pick. It just kind of depends like what your what decks you're paired against. Like I think Sky Striker gets destroyed by Dracoel, just because Dracoel doesn't really care about like the kind of disruptions that Sky Striker sets up. Right, you just built Like you just build hand advantage, and Sky Striker can't really interact with your hand. So I think that it's okay. It's not too bad, but it's also not the best. It's better into Moltres than the other decks and decent here, so we'll keep it right here. Next we have Yummy. Now, if I was being biased, I would put Yummy here. I think Yummy is a terrible deck. I think that it has so many lose conditions, but realistically, it's much higher than this. It's like I would put it between here and here. My issue with Yummy is that now again, look at all the decks that I have at the top tier. Lunalite, Mitsu, and Dracoel, and Christian, but let's ignore Christian for a second. These three decks obliterate Yummy, guys. They obliterate Yummy. So I don't even think I can have it in Loki kind of nice. I think it just loses to all the best decks of the format, right? So like it's just by definition then like the worst deck of the best decks. So I'm just gonna keep it in decent. It's a very consistent deck, right? You did lose your biggest push for going second. You still have thrust for it, but like if they have one Ash Blossom, all they have to do is save the Ash Blossom for the Obedience School and then book a monster and you can never play. Like it's actually just so bad. So I think that yeah, I think Yummy gets cooked. Like you guys, your opponent Valon's your monster. It's over. You can't obedience. You can't thrust into obedience anymore. Like how do you extend, right? Yeah. Like it's bad. I think this deck, like not the obedience hit, whatever. The herald hit for sure, whatever. But this deck as pure, like with Sky Striker cards, like I just don't think it's good. I think that it gets cooked by the other decks in the format. Now for Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul, I think people are exaggerating how hard this deck. Like obviously it got hit hard. Never, like don't. That's not being underestimated. I think it's salvageable. I think that Noroi coming out, plus you can play cards like Small World to increase like consistency. I think this deck is still in the decent pile. I think that also if people like start disrespecting it, it could like definitely like make an easy comeback. I would put this probably it got hit harder than Yummy and before it was equal, so I'll put it below Yummy. But again, Noroi is like a super good card, and people are like saying that the Saruya bridge is not good, but it really is, guys. You have like an 85% chance of drawing into a playable Vanquish card. So I would put this card. I think this deck is still better than Sky Striker. Sky Striker sucks. Just got like a little bit of a wave of support, but I will put it right here. I still think it's a fine deck. I think if you are good at the deck, you know like this deck best out of all the other decks. You have good text to make it work through the ban list. I think you should still play this deck. I definitely still think that. And then we have Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes, keep it in the binder. This deck has been trashed since it came out. It's bricky. It doesn't set up anything. It sets up things, but like it's like open. It's open. Shoot, guys. Ether Barrel or bust. I don't want to open Ether Barrel or bust. Like, come on. It's gone. DDD. DDD is an interesting one. DDD is a deck that does a lot low key, but also loses to hand traps pretty hard, from what I understand. So I'm gonna put DDD. Oh, this is hard. I'm gonna put DDD in the decent pile. I don't think it's like Loki in the Loki kind of nice pile, but I will put it right. It's getting new support. Doesn't have like a lot. I don't think it has any hits. I'm gonna put it right above Vanquish. Yeah, DDD's a strong deck, but I think you kind of play a lot of breaks for it. But still does a lot. Has like really good ways to one turn kill your opponent too. So I think that's pretty strong. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the tier list. Post Doom of Dimensions, post ban list. Please let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions. If you agree, disagree with any of my rankings. So yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.